Welcome to the Fit Girl Magic podcast. If you are ready to find your inner magic, develop great habits, and a rock steady mindset to feel confident, comfortable, and fit in your body, you are in the right place. I am Kim Barnes Jefferson, and I'll be giving you weekly doses of health, fitness, and life tips sprinkled with humor and real talk. If you're ready to be consistent without the stress of perfection, magic makers, it's time to slip into your favorite pair of PJs, grab some coffee, kick back, and listen to today's show.
All right, today's iTunes review of the week is brought to you by C. Hayes 77. I am so happy to have found this podcast. I look forward to listening to the new episode every week. I just finished the latest episode on lifting weights and loved it. I listened to it 3 times because it's so informative. I feel like I have a trainer in my ear when I listened and a friend to chat with, along with the things I love, fitness. Thank you so much, C. Hayes. That just fills my heart so full. So anyone else has a review, please absolutely share it with me. I love this and I appreciate every single review that I get. It just melts my heart that I am sharing the information that is going to be helpful for you to make sure that health and fitness is easy for you. Hey, magic makers. I am going to talk about something that my hope is going to completely shift how you think about your body and your goals. You know, if you go back the past several episodes, I've been really focusing on how do you cycle through your nutrition. We have a fat loss phase, we have a reverse phase, we have a maintenance phase, we have a build phase. I know we haven't talked about the build phase, but that's coming. But I really wanted to pop in this episode before we got to the build phase because I know I've regularly talked about seasonality. What season are you in? What season are you in? And I've got a lot of questions about, girl, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. So I wanted to plug this in so that we can kind of take a step back so we can take a step forward. So you know my philosophy if you've been listening for a while. And if you haven't been listening, you're going to find out my philosophy right now. You don't need to be on a diet 365 days a year. You just need a plan that respects your life and your sanity. And I'm raising my hand. I was a grinder, you know, especially during my fitness competitions years. I was either working my ass off to get on stage, or I was eating my ass off to get up to because of all of the restriction that I put myself through. And I was a professional yo-yo dieter for about a decade. And, you know, because of that, I was also, you know, in the very early stages of perimenopause. So like my body was just like, girl, you are just kicking me in the stones left and right. And maybe you're like me, right? You've spent years thinking that the only way to get results is to grind, to hustle, and start all over again every Monday or start all over again after every vacation or every screw up, right? You know, everything I share with you are things I've done, things I've thought, things I've seen with my clients. And I don't want you to feel like I am this like person who like is lording over you. Like I've had my own shit, and you know what? My shit still pops up from time to time. The thing that separates us is that now instead of me like spiraling, I might do like one twirl and then be like, girl, bring it back, versus like the days long, hours long spiral. And that's what I hope for you. And I want to show you that it's possible to be on the other side of that. So I've got a few truth bombs I'm going to drop on you today. Like your body is an Amazon Prime and you don't get results overnight just because you ordered them through restriction and hustle and grind. You get them because you have to finally start to learn, how do I work with my body versus constantly putting my body in a headlock and being like, shut up and come along for the ride. And today I want to introduce you to a strategy that really no one really talks about. Honestly, one of my mentors talked about this probably like 10 years ago. And I was kind of like, yeah, that's cute. But I really didn't start to like lean into it until about last year. I've really started to lean into it. So what I want to talk about is kind of like the weight loss season framework. Hey, Magic Makers, real talk. Have you ever stood in front of your closet, jeans in one hand, stretchy Lulus in the other, debating which one is going to make you feel less like a can of Busted Biscuits? Yeah, my hand is raised high. Honey, it's not about being lazy. You are not crazy. No, your metabolism just didn't get up and move to another country. The truth is you are doing everything right. Yeah, according to every diet book, trainer, fitfluencer on the internet, and yet your belly fat is still hanging around and thinks it's going to live there forever. But here's what I want you to think about. If this eat less, move more actually worked, we wouldn't be in this situation. We wouldn't be having this conversation. And I believed all this stuff, hook, line, and sinker, and I'm a trainer. So I created something different, something that was short and made for women just over 40 who are sick of starting over. I call it the 5-day belly fat reset. It is a private podcast that cuts through the noise. No calorie math, no endless cardio, just real talk and some science-backed strategies to really help you understand your body right now. I break down why working harder is keeping you stuck. And I see it all the time. Why belly fat is around and what it really is trying to tell you, and how to stop playing health roulette every time you take one little stumble. Don't worry, it's not going to take a lot of time. It is bingeable. It is under 10 minutes. You can do it every day, or you can sit and binge it in one session. We talk all about fat loss and how to get it done. Want to grab a copy of it? Do me a favor. Head over to the link in my bio and click the link and you'll get immediate access. Or if you are on socials, DM me the word reset and I will make sure you get a copy of the podcast. And this is what I know. You don't need another plan. You need a better approach. So let's get this done, Magic Makers. Enjoy the show. I know it's not a sexy name, but that's where I'm going, right? It's because it's not about doing more all the time. It's about doing what works for you right now in this season. So let's dive in, right? So first of all, let's just set the stage. You are not lazy. You are just trapped in a vicious cycle of all or nothing. Been there. If I am not fully dieting, checking every goddamn box, I am failing. And I was watching the news this morning, and I think the universe was like, girl, you need this. And there was a woman talking about her book about overcoming being a perfectionist. And she was talking about how we don't identify as perfectionists. We identify as a person who we've set these lofty ideas, these lofty goals for ourselves. And if we miss one step, we tell ourselves we're behind, we're failing, we can't get it all done. And that's where I was for a really long time. And that's where a lot of the clients that I work with are, is that, if you're not doing a 47-step, checklist and you miss, you make it to 45, you're shit. And most of us have been treating every single day, every single month like it's fat loss season. And then you keep beating yourself up because, the scale isn't moving, your pants are still tight, and you're just like, what can I do? And this is what I see everywhere, right? I see, vacation's coming up in a month. How can I lose 400 pounds in 4 minutes? Holidays show up. Boom, I got up, I can't indulge with my friends and family, or holidays, I'm out. See you in January. Vacations. Either I'm sprinting to the finish line so I look good in a bathing suit, or for my friends or family, and then I go on vacation, lose my ever-loving mind, or you're that girl who's like, I got to wake up at 5 a.m. before my family gets up so I can go to the gym. And oh no, everyone else is having dessert. Ooh, moment on the lips, lifetime on the hips. And, then let's talk about the crazy schedule you might have. I have clients who have kids who play, you insert the sport, insert the activity, they're in it. And as, the Uber, you're carting them here, there, and everywhere. You're sitting on a ball field, you're sitting at a recital. And that's life, And I'm sure everyone listening to this right now can identify with one piece of that, be it that you're trying to, you wake up 2 weeks before your vacation and you're like, how do I get skinny now? Or you're like, damn, we got to take Harvey to baseball and Susie to basketball and the other kids going to violin lessons. And you're just like, and I got to go to work. So here's what I want you to imagine. You wouldn't train for a marathon the same way you would train for a 5K, right? So why on earth are we applying the same rigid rules all year long? Just like seasons out in nature, right? Think about seasons out in nature. If it was winter for 365 days a year, I would lose my ever loving mind. But the seasons are, every 12-ish weeks, the season changes. And sometimes it's, I live in New England. So, for us, we get 2 minutes of summer. But for us, let's just use New England as an example. For us, I know guaranteed that July and August, I'm guaranteed that it's going to be at least 80 degrees the majority of those 2 months. I'm guaranteed that. And then I have fringe months where June, 50-50. And then September, October, 50-50, right? So I know that I have my fringe months, but I know solidly July and August are going to be like, I can get at least 80 degrees, several 80-degree days, multiple 90-degree days. But I know that the weather is going to be summer in those 2 months. And that's where I kind of want us to start to think about, and even though I'm going to talk about these in like 90-day blocks, I want us all to kind of start to think about, as I described, that fringe season, right? June is a fringe month. September, October is that fringe month. And I know by like November, I'm definitely going to have days where I'm wearing a coat more than I'm not wearing a coat. It's going to be a full time. It's not going to be one of those cool in the morning, nice in the afternoon, cool at night. It's going to be put on your damn coat and maybe put on a hat season here. So I want us to kind of like set the stone. So like usually in the wintertime, you are more like you're hunkering down, you're hunkering down for, a long winter's nap. And here is where build season is, right? Where, especially I live in New England. So let's just say I'm premising this on my worldview. In New England, in colder climates, we're wearing more clothes. So we're focusing here on building. You're eating more, we're building muscle, we're lifting heavier, we're hitting the gym somewhere between 3 and 5 days. But if I'm truly building, I'm more on the 5-day schedule, but not in a grinding way, right? It's not like this is your second job or your third job, but more like you have the time in your schedule. And I guess I should take a big step back. Just because winter starts in December doesn't mean your winter is December. Okay. So let's just zoom out before I get real specific about this. So I want us all to be very honest with ourselves. As a 40-something-year-old woman, we do not have a lot of spontaneous shit that pops up in our life. I know that many of you have a pretty much rhythmic schedule. You have a few blips in the radar, but for the most part, what sports your kids are going to play, and their seasons, right? Roughly, the start and end of their season. Unless you're in a new position or new career, you pretty much know when your busy seasons are at work and when your slower seasons are at work. You pretty much know your, basic travel schedule. I know that for myself, somewhere between February and March, I'm going on vacation. I know that typically we go on vacation, a quick vacation in February, March. We also do a longer vacation in September. I know that around Christmas time, I go to visit my family. And that's pretty much it, right? So if I look at my schedule, I pretty much know when I have things that are popping up. I might not know the exact dates, but I have the rough months that is going to happen. And most of us are in that boat. So I want you to just kind of, as I'm talking about this, I want you to kind of throw up a 365-day calendar and just map that out. Then I want you to think about other things that that might be happening in your year. So for example, are you moving? And then, we all know that moving throws in a whole monkey wrench, right? So it's like, if you're moving, okay, but put that in, we roughly have a ballpark of like when you're thinking, I'm going to put my house on the market, say in the spring. So, as we're talking about this, I know next spring I'm going to put my house on the market, or next fall I'm going to put my house on the market. And then it's like, hopefully in 30 to 60 days, I sell my house. And in 30 to 60 days, I have a new house. And so like, what does that look like? So I want you to kind of like zoom out and think about all the things you have going on in your life so that we can kind of like work around that. And winter is that season. It's the build season. It's the season where you're like, you know what? I don't have a lot going on. I can commit somewhere between 12 plus weeks to go into the gym, eating my best, eating 80% of the time. I'm always going to say my best, and it's always going to mean 80% of the time. This isn't where you're like, I'm never going to ask you, you're checking all the boxes. I'm going to give you boxes. And then again, I'm always working with like, what's possible for you in this moment. And so in the winter is when you have that time, so that the majority of the time you're checking 80% of the boxes. I'm never going to ask you to check every goddamn box, but 80% of the time, you probably are going to check every box, because this is a season where I can go heads down. There's not a lot of requirements of my time. I won't be traveling. I'm not going to be, sitting on a bench on a ball field, right? So this is where I want us to kind of start to look at look at this. And in this winter season, just to kind of bring us back to where we were, in this winter season, it's 3 to 5 days, but it's primarily you're able to hit 5 days a week. And you have the time and you are able to go heads down and commit to the workouts and commit to the nutrition. Primarily, you're hitting protein. You're eating enough to actually fuel your workouts. And we're working to like build strategic muscles so that probably every like 4 to 6 weeks, in a particular exercise, in a particular muscle group, we're able to add on some weight. And you're not chasing sore. You're just chasing like the last few reps. They feel really good. And the mindset shift here is that you're probably going to look a little fluffier. This is not us being like, I want to be the hottest bitch on the planet. This is me being like, I'm fueling my muscles, and that I'm trying to get to a point so that when I start, if I do this in a way that I'm not eating shit, I do this in a way that I'm strategically eating food, when we get into the fat loss phase, it's just going to be fat that's falling off. It's not going to be this excess garbage that I'm not really feeding my body. I'm putting in just food to eat food. I remember when I was in high school, the wrestlers, and I'm sure everyone knows a wrestler. And you would see the wrestlers and you would see the guys in the cafeteria who just like shoveling the food in. They're like, I got a coach told me I have to put on the weight. And they're just shoveling in shit food, like no real like rhyme or reason for the food. And then you saw the people who were trying to cut weight and they were like, I'm just going to wave this lettuce over my face and, get the essence of it. So in this phase, we are not just eating shit. We are eating more, but in a strategic way. We're eating probably 300 to 500 calories more than what we would normally do in maintenance. But again, taking a step back to the episodes I've talked about previously, you have to find maintenance in order to get to this piece right here. So this is like this build season, this winter season, this is our foundation, right? This is what sets the foundation for the rest of the year, right? Because I think about bulbs, like flower bulbs, right? So I plant bulbs in the fall and all winter long, they're in the ground and they are just like percolating so that when spring comes, they're like, I'm here, look at me, I'm gorgeous. So then we move into spring. And as I mentioned, winter, I recommend if you are doing a true build, especially if you're a woman over 40, you're doing a true build, I would say give yourself a good, honestly, I would love for you to give yourself 6 months. I would love it. I would absolutely love you to have 6 months of true build underneath your belt. This would be my fantasy. But at minimum, I would say like 4 to 5 months. Like 4 to 5 months, like you are like able to commit to like heads down, getting shit done. Then we move into spring, right? And so here's where we do a little bit of a downshift, right? We've been like, build, build, build. Now we do just a touch of a downshift. So we pull back the calories just a touch. We can still lift heavy based on what our caloric intake looks like. Or maybe, we start to cycle through our carbs here. And maybe on the heavier carb days, leg days, we have a higher carb. But here is where we start to keep the protein high, but we keep saying consistent, but not obsessive here. We go back and forth. This is not this rigid meal plan here, right? We're just following through on feedback, so that if we're like, okay, I'm out of this build cycle, and I'm going to just slowly, taper down the calories, right? Because we don't want to go from high calorie to like 0 calorie, right? We want to have this nice, slow, gradual reduction. And here's where we start to say, like, the structure is still there, but it's not as strict as when we're trying to build, right? So it's like when you're trying to build, it's like you're hitting your protein, you're hitting the gym. Now, as we're starting to kind of get into the spring, we're slowly backing our way back towards our maintenance here. And so this is the transition, right? It's not the punishment, because it's really challenging when, raising my hand, like when you get used to eating all of those calories, you're like, yeah. And there's certain foods that you just like. And then you're like, yeah, those are accessory foods. And so when I say accessory foods, so when I was in my build phase, there are certain foods that I started eating a lot. For example, dates. I love dates. But as I was starting to taper, my coach was like, hey, Kim, let's pull those dates out of your shake. And I was like, oh, right. I liked the dates. And so she's like, well, if you love the dates, what other like extra foods can we pull out of that? Right. So it was, it's kind of like this game of like, Stratego. Like, if you love the dates, can you get rid of the apple that you have later in the day? So it was like, where can we start to find some little calorie gains here and there? But I digress. Back to you. Right. So then, as spring fades, like it does, then summer comes along. So here is where the focus, how do I live my life without losing my goddamn mind, right? How do I still, if I'm someone who's like, I have a client who, they have a boat, and she's like, we are all about the boat life. And she's like, I want to just feel comfortable and confident wearing a bathing suit. Or I've, other clients who live to go to the beach. I'm one of those people. And I just want to feel comfortable in a bathing suit. I don't want to feel like I have to strategically put stuff on my body. Great. I'm with you. I am that girl too. So this is about maintaining your habits. This is about solid non-negotiables. This is about, you're not grinding at the gym. You're maybe going to the gym 3 days a week, and it's total full body exercises. But you're still focusing in on protein. We're now focusing on movement that feels good, and you're actually enjoying life, but not being obsessive that like, oh, I should be at the gym 5 days a week. I should get up at 5 a.m. to go to the gym before vacation. That's not where you are. You're focusing in on being consistent, right? Not being perfect, and just trying to do your best. And by this point, right, you've gone through winter, and we've been practicing some habits. You've gone through spring, we've been practicing your habits. We've gone through summer, we've been practicing your habits. And then now we get to fall. Fall is like that recalibration time. And you look at yourself and you say, okay, where have I been this last year? Where do I want to go? And we just do an assessment, right? What worked? What didn't? What does my body need now? Does my body need just to chill the bleep out? What do I have for time? Or is it for my body, or is it like, what? I want to go back. Like, I want to go back to that build. That felt pretty good. Great. So be it. We can go back into it. And, maybe you just like that intensity, but you just didn't have the time for it. So be it, right? So the detective in you you decide based on your own data. Like you decide based on like what your year looks like. Maybe your kid graduated and your kid's now in college, so you're not Uber driving anymore. Or maybe now your kid has a driver's license. You're like, yes, I don't have to drive to every goddamn practice. Maybe and you have a little bit more space. And so, this is where the magic sticks, right? Us being honest, not in the like, oh, if I had the ideal schedule, and I've shared this story multiple times because it works. When I used to work at a gym, we would sit down with a new client. We had this new client assessment. And the question was, how much time do you have to devote to a workout? And inevitably, most people would say 6 to 7 days. And then, as a coach, you'd be like, all right, Sharon, do you have kids? Great. Excuse me. Do you have kids? Great. Do your kids ever get sick? Oh yeah, they get sick. Okay, so let's just take that down to 5. Do you have a job? Yeah. Are you your own boss? No. Okay. Has your boss ever asked you to stay and work late? Right. So now it's like, what was like, I could work out every day. We've now peeled it back to 5. Now it's down to 4. And like, it's really working with a client to get realistic about their time, because I would rather tell me I can only work out 2 days a week and you squeeze out 4 most days than for you to say 4 and only get 2. Because when you say 2 and you get 4, you feel like a winner. When you say 4 and you only get 1, you get 2, you feel like a loser. And I want you to feel more like a winner than a loser. So as we kind of, talk about how do I like put this in real life, so again, just because I say winter, spring, I don't mean the exact winter, spring on the calendar. Winter can be any time of year where you are able to go heads down for 12 plus weeks, right? So, zoom out 365 and what does that look like? And when you're in your varying seasons, we're not getting squirrely. We're not being like, oh my God, it's not working. It's like, you have to like pick your pace, make peace with it, pick your season. Like, just as much as I hate winter, I can't be in February be like, Mother Nature, we good. Because Mother Nature's like, no, we're not good. We still got March and potentially April and early May and maybe all of May, depending on how many times you ask. So as you're, putting on your detective hat, I want you to paint a picture I want to paint a picture of how this really looks. So, I share these 2 examples because it really works. So I have a client who's a tax accountant, and from February to April is her busy season, right? And so during those months, she is solid maintenance mode. For years and years, she always tried to keep up with her same exact schedule. And she would always beat herself up. She's like, oh my God, it's just not working. It's just not working. I'm like, yeah, girl, because you're doing 50 plus hour weeks. You are barely hanging on right now. So we have to come up with something that is going to just be your bare blipping minimal and be okay with that. And it was simple. Like, okay, what was your simple nutrition things you can do? So it was like she focused in on protein and she focused in on sleep. And that was it. That's all we did. And then when she could get in a workout, it's like, if you could give me at least, 2-day workout, can you work out just on Saturday and Sunday? And I'm like, I know that you probably have to go to the office, but like, can you, instead of going in the office at like 8:00, can you go in at noon so that you can like, get a little, Vanessa time, that was her name, a little Vanessa time, but also just kind of like have a few moments to decompress because, your stress level is on full tilt during those crazy times. And then once once May hit, she was now back on that, work was now on the decline. So she could focus in on, getting back into like a build phase, really working on like establishing some new habits so that when we got to April again, we knew where we were going to go. And another client, like, she discovered like during, she has an elite basketball player, and during basketball season, she was always trying to be on a diet and bringing carrots to the games and chugging, protein shakes. And she was just feeling bloated and gross all the time. And so she would be getting home from the game because she was trying to be good with her carrots, and she would just be like, go ham in the pantry. So for basketball season, we're like, how do we just maintain your habits, right? So you're not feeling like you just have to bring carrots in a water bottle with you to the game. And for me, summer is my build season. And I have like two seasons of the year that I can do more building. True winter is when I can go heads down, and summer. And it's, and again, I always zoom out, and I always block my life in 90-day sprints is what I do. So it's like, I look at it and I'm like, okay, from June 1 to September 1, what's going on? And then, and it's like, is that a time to go heads down? But also I give myself the fluidity, so this spring, I was really focusing on a build phase. And in March, things got a little squirrely for me. And so I did way more traveling in April, May, and June than I expected. So that kind of like derailed me. Does that happen often? Not really. But it derailed me a bit. So then I had to like regroup. And so now, that had to shift to more of a late actual summer into the fall and probably into the winter. So it just, for here, it's what I say is like, you don't have to be so hard on yourself, right? You don't have to be like, I'm in build and it must stay the build. Like sometimes life does throw you a curveball. I wasn't expecting the curveball that life threw me, but it did. And it's okay. And I just had to like, rejig some of my plans, and wasn't assigned to scrap it all. It was just assigned to pivot. And that's where I want all of us to kind of say, it's okay that you pivot, because that's just how life is sometimes. And as we are going through these different phases, most of you will be like, how will I know it's working? Right. And so most of you want to step on the scale. During a build, I recommend that you do not step on that damn scale, because that's not the focus here. That is not the focus of it. Our focus is that we are building muscle, and then we're going to strip away the fat. But another way, 3 ways that you can really become that metabolic detective for yourself is to check in with your hunger, right? Are you hungry? Like when you eat a meal, within 2 hours, are you hungry? Because that's a sign of 1, that you ate enough food, 2, blood sugar and insulin regulation there. And then your energy, like, are you like crashed out all the time? Or do you feel like, like the Energizer Bunny, or are you yawning like I have been for the rest of this podcast? And I'll be honest with you, I don't usually record my podcast this late in the afternoon. But, for me, I'm in my afternoon slump, and I recorded the podcast now. And then cravings, if I can't control my cravings, that's a sign something's out of whack. And for many of my clients, they discover that when they up their protein and pay attention to their water and increase meal size, cravings go away. Cravings aren't a sign to like white knuckle it or grab a rice cake, right? It's a sign that like, okay, I did not eat enough food. And the simplest way to build on your meals, add an extra ounce of protein and add, fibrous vegetables. Like those are like my first 2 go-tos when someone tells me that they're hungry. And do your meals set you up for success? So with that said, let's talk craving. So maybe I have a craving for pizza. And in my mind, I'm like, oh, I want the pizza, but I got to be good. I can't have the pizza. And so I say, nope, I'm not going to have the pizza. And I end up having a salad with chicken on it. But the entire time, my mind's psyched up for the pizza. Oh my God, I want the pizza. The pizza's going to be good. Pizza's amazing. But then I don't get the pizza. My brain is, and then I eat the salad. And my brain's like, this ain't pizza. And so I'm constantly seeking the pizza. So then I set myself up for a craving. So that I'm like craving something that's pizza-like. So I have this, I have that, I have this, but it ain't pizza. And so my body keeps telling me it's good, but it ain't pizza. Versus if I just had the pizza. another way to look at it is that, am I just having an apple? And then because I just had an apple and I'm running errands and I'm going to be out of my house for like several hours, and I didn't bring a protein bar, I didn't bring some other type of satiating snack. So by the time I get home, I am losing my ever-loving mind. Or maybe I went to the gym to work out, but I'm running errands now and I didn't bring any food. So it's like, do you kind of pre-look at your day so that we can start to set ourselves up for success so that you're not running around, on E? And when I don't know about you, but when my hunger tank gets down to E, I eat whatever the hell I want. And sometimes it ain't pretty. So here's the takeaway I want for you today, is that your plan's not broken. It's about timing. And every season has a purpose. So I want you to pick your season and make peace with it. Like, you don't need to earn your results. No one's handing out gold stars for restriction. And you just need a strategy that fits your actual time in your life, And be that detective, right? So if you like detectives, you like the true crime stuff, I do. I got a quiz for you. It's going to really help you figure out, is your metabolism tired AF? And the link is going to be in the show notes. And if you absolutely are done trying to figure this out on your own, come hang with me inside the Fit Girl Magic Society. It is my monthly membership. We don't do burnout culture there. We build plans that actually fit your life, no shame, and we're not going to grind. Like, I'm done grinding, so you're done grinding. All right. So now, go figure out what season you're in and act like it, my love. That's a wrap. And do me a favor, if you are listening to this first time or you have not subscribed, hit that subscribe button, and I will catch you on the next Fit Girl Magic podcast.
Thank you for listening to the Fit Girl Magic podcast. If you've made it this far, yay! I'm thinking you enjoyed the show. Let's continue the conversation on Instagram. You can find me at Kim Jefferson Coach. In order for me to keep sharing this message, do me a favor and leave me a 5-star review on iTunes. While you're there, don't forget to subscribe so that you won't miss an episode. New episodes are available every Wednesday. The Fit Girl Magic podcast is intended to provide you with tips, tools, and strategies that will help you make better decisions about your health. I really appreciate your feedback and your support. Thank you so much.